Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So I coach in several business communities, whether it be business coaches hosting their own masterminds or group coaching programs or, trainings that I do. One thing that always comes up, especially for early stage business owners, is this little annoyance in the payment processing fees that are charged by companies like Stripe or Square or PayPal. And, it's an interesting question because this comes up and I didn't anticipate this question, but it does come up a lot. And it's around how do we avoid these payment charges? Or it's an expression of annoyance that this 3% charge pops up or that they're taking the money out before it gets deposited. And, I have a couple of approaches to this, but I always get this question of how do I avoid these payment processing fees? And the blunt answer is accept cash. If you want to accept credit cards, then you have to pay for the service to process those credit cards. You need to pay for the digital swiping machine. So if you were to think of even a restaurant or a store in person, if you were to go back, 15, 20, 25 years, you picture, okay, there was someone who had to physically swipe the card in a machine when you used a credit card at the store, right? And I'm sure that machine cost money. So, very similarly, these companies will charge a fee for you to use their services, right? So, this is no different. It's just interesting to me that we complain about this, but it's no different than using any other piece of software or being annoyed that we have to pay for QuickBooks or being annoyed that we have to pay for insert any software here, that I'm paying for this podcast recording software or that you're paying for invoicing or DocuSign or Kajabi or whatever it may be, Zoom, or Canva. So we're paying these companies for their services of making their software available to us to use. Stripe, Square, PayPal, they are no different. What they offer, however, is the ability of you to use their software to process payments. So they charge, instead of charging a flat fee like a subscription, they're actually charging you based on the percentage of dollars that you process through. So a lot of people do end up actually making up better for this because if you're not making sales, you're not incurring cost. So I actually kind of like that approach because let's just say they were to charge you 100 bucks a month in fees, you may make out well when, that ends up being less than the 3%. But if you don't make any sales, for example, if you don't make any sales that whole month, you still owe them money, but they didn't do anything. They didn't provide you any services. They just sat there. And I like the idea of pay as you use, a pay as you use it model. And it's actually kind of smart. But, there are a couple of things. If you want the privilege to use credit card processing, you're going to have to pay this fee. Also, this service actually enables you to make more sales. It's actually a great investment because think about this way. If you sell a relatively high ticket product or service, if you sell something, for example, that's $5,000, $3,000, whatever it looks like, and you were to say, well, we don't accept credit cards. Think about how many of your customers use credit cards. I would actually challenge you, go and look at the percentage of your customers opting for credit cards. Number one, customers are using credit cards more than ever for the points and they're paying off their balances. So they're incurring the debt. Yes, it doesn't mean they can't afford it. Personally, every single one of my monthly expenses, other than payroll, is going on my Platinum Amex, period, because I want the points and the perks. So I'm sure other business owners are doing that. And what ends up happening is they will actually gravitate more toward companies who offer that as an option. If you don't offer that, then what you're doing is you're stripping away the power of your customer to decide how they want to pay for that and when they want the cash to outflow. This is important because by taking away that power, then they are going to perceive a lower value. and they're going to be less convinced to buy your product or service because you're going to be forcing them to use their existing cash to pay for your product or service. Like you're not giving them an option to use their credit card. So if they don't have the buying power today, you've now restricted them to making a very high pressure decision using cash in their bank account. And that's not really fair, if I'm being honest. Like, we should be able to choose if we want to use a credit card, and most places do accept credit cards. So, I would encourage you that if you're selling anything online, if you're selling anything B2B services, that, and it also kind of communicates a sense of maturity of your business. Because if you don't take credit cards, I don't want to say suspicious, but it's kind of odd, right? It's unusual to not accept credit cards in this day and age. So, to be kind of on trend and on par with your industry and to afford your customers the ability to choose how they pay, you then have to incur the cost of the payment processors to use that service. Like, yeah, it can kind of suck to have the 3% taken out, but there's also an element of a mindset shift here because it's really interesting how people focus on that 3%. And I'm like, the other 97% wouldn't be there if you didn't pay for the 3%. Right. And, you know, Jason and I were just talking about this. We were watching the Masters and gosh, it's I want to say Scheffler is how you say his last name. Scotty Scheffler was winning the Masters. And we were talking about how we heard a rumor that his caddy makes 10% of the winnings, which put him over like 1.2 million or something for the season. The caddy, by the way, not the golfer, the caddy. And what we were talking about was, wow, like that's amazing. And it's like, well, can you imagine having a $1.2 million payroll? And I'm like, can you imagine making that much money that you pay your caddy that much and it's only 10% of what you made? you know? And you have to shift that mindset into not how much you pay, but the fact that it's such a minute percentage of what you actually made. And if it's always going to be at 3%, that's, fixed margin. That means that like you're always going to be taking home 90% of what you make in sales. And that's fine. And I've never had any issues with the payment processing fees. I've always just accepted them as part of life, part of truth, and just adopted this mindset of gratitude for the other 97% I get to keep. We're always used to taxes being taken out of stuff. And this is kind of the same approach for me. It's just part of the cost of doing business. But if you also want to think about it, it's really an investment in your business. It's really an investment in, increasing your customer base and allowing your customers to pay the way they want to. And, getting more customers willing to pay you because you offer that option. So if you didn't offer that option, how much sales would you actually lose? How many customers would you lose? How much customer lifetime value could you lose? Like there's a lot at stake there. So when we're talking about the payment processing fees and being annoyed with these little things, just remember that this is, well, A, it's reality. It's part of the cost of doing business. But B, it's an investment. I want you to shift that mindset, flip it around, and understand that this is something where you get to invest in your customer's experience of a purchase with you. You get to afford them more power on how they want to purchase and, you know, allow yourself to make more sales in the process and deliver more value. So just keep that in mind as you go through and you start your business that there are going to be some things that are kind of annoying, like a mosquito bite, but you got to move on. You got to accept it as truth. You got to stop trying to find ways to avoid the 3% fee. Focus on how to optimize that 97. All right. I'll see you on the next episode. Everyone says you need to get a bookkeeper, but what good is that if you don't know how to read the financial statements they give you? If you're hesitating to ask questions on your numbers, or you're not even looking at them because you don't know how to turn them into actions, we're now offering an accessible option for you to get the support you need to use your financial statements effectively. It's called the CFO On Demand. You can bring your financials to a call with me or message me privately about what's going on with your business. We will even go over what documents you need to send your tax pro so you feel prepared and confident this tax season. Want to learn more? Head to thecfoondemand.com, and the link is down in the show notes. Again, that's thecfoondemand.com. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.